control contagions. Our laws and legal system have sometimes aided the efforts of scientists to stop an outbreak, and sometimes have proved a hindrance. But epidemics also create conflicts among citizens, sometimes exceedingly bitter ones, as yellow fever did in the late 19th century. Ultimately, our political system and laws must address those. We expect government to keep us safe from epidemics, but the United States has a spotty record of doing so, and this book helps explain why. Epidemic control in the U.S. is unique and controversial because of our deep culture of individual rights and constitutional values. Epidemic control is also made more difficult because the U.S. has one of the most decentralized and fragmented public health systems in the world. Drawing from our past, I provide a legal history of epidemics that the United States has experienced, including smallpox, yellow fever, the Spanish influenza, polio, HIV/AIDS, Ebola, and now COVID-19. Choosing 1776 as a starting point to recount America's past epidemics as I do, rather than, say, 1492 or 1607 or 1620, admittedly ignores more than 2 centuries of colonial government, as well as centuries of customary measures to prevent the spread of diseases whose causes were little understood. But the establishment of a new nation on the shores of North America created a set of circumstances that would shape a law of epidemics in distinctive ways. The constitution of a federal government that also vested great authority in the individual and very different states that made up the nation led to the unusual history that unfolds in this book. Laws concerning epidemics did not change much in America's first century, after the colonists formed themselves first into independent states and then a nation. As it happens, we still operate with some of the same laws and governing structures that were put in place then to contain disease outbreaks. Those laws still work in many circumstances, as they did when small communities and rural living were the norm. Travel was slow and cumbersome, and medical science had few of the tools that we now take for granted. But as the nation expanded and opened up to greater commerce and faster means of transportation after the Civil War, epidemics had a profound effect on the country and reshaped the government institutions and laws that helped meet those emergencies. Most people do not think of government and legal issues when they think of epidemic disease. But health emergencies, like the COVID-19 pandemic, present a crisis not only for doctors and public health officials, but also for lawyers and politicians. Medical experts may advise burdensome measures to halt the progress of a pandemic, but the lines of authority among local, state, tribal, and federal officials are often unclear and contested, as the COVID-19 pandemic demonstrated. Public health becomes political, as constituents demand governmental response, or demand that it not respond in a particular way. These fault lines have been with us for a long time. From America's earliest epidemics, political leaders faced strikingly similar challenges and made strikingly similar decisions. In the years since, we have lacked the political will to strengthen the nation's public health defense system. We have inherited and retained inadequate laws, have underfunded public health agencies, and most to the point, continue to respond to pandemic threats in the United States, not as one nation, but as 55 smaller nations, the states, territories, and commonwealths that politically subdivide the country. America's public health defense is further divided among nearly 3,000 state and local public health departments. We rely on them to protect us from outbreaks of contagious disease in our communities. But jurisdictional boundaries are jealously guarded, in part because of a philosophical preference toward local control and in part to preserve limited budgets. With this setup, it is difficult, if not impossible, to have an effective national strategy against a pandemic. This is not a book about healthcare reform or delivery of private healthcare services. Health providers play a critical role in any public health emergency, of course, but this book is not about them. It is about how the United States can mount a better defense to the next pandemic. Understanding how we have come to where we are can help us recognize potential pitfalls and barriers along the way and address them.